Welcome to Baseball This Week, a Spotlight production. And here's your host, Jim Stark.
Well, good afternoon. It's a Wednesday afternoon today. We're not changing our time or anything. They're just changing our time for today. I'm Jim Stark, along with Rob, the Boston Rob Bennett, who we are bringing you today's edition of Baseball This Week, an afternoon edition. Even though the Tigers are they started already, Rob? Oh, no, this is the replay from yesterday. That's right. So the Tigers are playing tonight.
6:40 first pitch, but I figured a little, baseball matinee talk.
Well,
why not?
Absolutely, because the Tigers have the once mighty, vaunted New York Yankees. Well,
during this series, they've been a little vaunting for the Detroit Tigers, but overall, probably you could argue, along with the other New York team, the most disappointing team in all of Major League Baseball this season.
I would put them right there with the Mets and maybe San Diego.
Yep.
But the Yankees, and you look at their numbers, a Judge is having, for him, an off year, to say the least.
Well, there's been some injuries.
Giancarlo Stanton is another big hitter who's had an off year.
Yep.
DJ LeMahieu, who is like a machine, he's sitting down around 250. So all those dependable guys who just rang up these
Josh
big
Donaldson,
stats,
who they released.
Yeah, well, he was kind of at the end of his career.
Yeah,
but
released, but still a release. Still had 25 home runs, but released. But the average was not there.
The pitcher Luis Severino, who I think beat the Tigers, but he's had a very off year. So yeah, it's been a combination of reasons.
Hey,
why
as much as I'd love to being from Massachusetts, being a Boston Red Sox true and bred here fan, as much as I would like to rail on the Yankees for an hour, we got some Detroit Tigers talk to get to. So let's get right to it. Huh?
They are going to get to the third game of the series, and unfortunately, Rob, since the last time you and I met last Wednesday, they've gone 1-5. They won the first game against Houston on Friday on that thrilling walk-off fashion where the
Parker Meadows baby.
in a monster home run after.
Yeah, there was no doubt about that, right?
After, of all people, Miguel Cabrera keeps the rally alive with 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth. Gets a base hit up the middle.
He's been hitting the ball quite well.
Oh, yeah, no.
Right?
I give him credit. He kept the rally alive, and then
got another home run.
And 2 hitters later, Meadows hits a big game-winning walk-off home run. He's had a really good start to his career. I think he's got 4 or 5 extra base hits. He's got a couple stolen bases. He's got a couple walks.
Well,
so
let's just see how it turns out. Obviously, a great start. Couldn't ask for a better kind of fairy tale start, right, to your Major League Baseball career. But these pitchers are going to figure him out.
It's a long way to go, obviously. But I like the fact they have him in center field because Riley Green moves to right, and that makes the outfield that much stronger because now you've got good outfielders in both of those key positions. So I like the fact he's playing center field.
Yeah, and I think when you look at it coming with the next season or 2 even, maybe center field will be the deepest position of the Tigers team.
Yes.
Because when you look at these young talents, a lot of that is in, the outfield.
The kid they drafted this year, first
Max
round
Clark.
Is supposed to be a defensive demon in center field. Yeah, no, that's okay. Give me 3 center fielders. I'm good because Comerica Park is still one of the biggest outfields in all of Major League Baseball.
Well, it goes all up the middle. Catcher, pitcher, center fielder.
The great teams, you can always see a strong
the middle.
And you build a team up the middle, which you got to and you raise a great point, Rob, because if you look at up the middle for the Tigers right now, I'm watching a home run last night, sort of a replay of a nightmare. Gleyber Torres got
silly baseball on the right now.
Okay.
So
I
didn't mean to get you flashbacks.
No. I didn't watch the game last night because I was playing last night.
All right.
So I didn't get a chance to watch.
How'd you do?
We got rained out.
Oh.
Played 2 innings and that rained out. I was so frustrated.
All right.
Last night.
Don't mess with Mother Nature.
The Tigers lost their second game in a row to the Yankees, as I mentioned earlier. Tarek Skubal didn't pitch badly, but just no run support.
Right.
But getting back to Parker Meadows, he when you build a team, you build at the middle. You have a strong catcher, a strong shortstop, strong second baseman, and strong center. The Tigers have none of those 4 right now. None of them. You got catchers a revolving door. They cut Eric Haas and they bring this Carson Kelly in, and
Well, I mean, you could, depending on what happens with Rodriguez in the offseason, he could be your ace pitcher, right? I mean, he's pitched like that.
Well,
but I hear what you're saying.
No, I mean, but you have no strength at catcher.
Right.
Shortstop will just Baez has been nothing but a disaster. Second base is a revolving door.
Yeah.
It depends who's playing that day.
Right.
And center field has been a revolving. So it's no wonder it's not a good team if you don't have strong up the middle. You don't have a good team, and the Tigers are a great example of that.
Yeah, right now. But the future again.
Oh,
we've been talking about the future is now. You've seen at least in some positions, it looks like help is coming sooner rather than later.
Well, one of the things I talked with Jack Ebling yesterday on the on the drive with Jack is it's the future is now. You're seeing and this past weekend with the Astros in town was a great example. You had the past, you had Miguel Cabrera and Justin Verlander both on the field at the same time. The glory of the Tigers, the great years, the World Series appearances, all the MVPs, the Triple Crowns.
I love what you said. It was kind of like you saw the passing of the baton, perhaps. That was, especially with Miguel Cabrera and these young talents.
Yeah,
now.
and on the other hand, you've got the 3, 4, 5 hitter for the Tigers right now. You've got Green, Kerry Carpenter, Spencer Torkelson.
Early 20s.
All in that center part of the line. So, yeah, you're seeing yesterday, and hopefully we're seeing tomorrow.
Yeah.
But it's such a hard prediction to make how a guy is going to – we've seen these guys come and go who had a hot 2 months, a hot 3 months. Brennan Bosch. Remember Brennan Bosch?
Sure.
The Tigers?
Yeah.
Boy, he was unbeatable for 3 months, right?
Well, that's what I mean. It comes around, right? They'll figure them out. They're going to figure some of these hitters out.
Well, yes, but the good hitters figure that
then they adjust.
Yes.
Yeah, it's an adjustment, and then it's their adjustment. So that's when you know if you have right.
Yep. So
that's when you'll know, like Spencer Torkelson. Well, I mean, he adjusted, and now you're seeing pitchers adjusted to him. And he then now adjusted. It might take a little longer than what people wanted, but we're starting to see now the maturation of a Major League Baseball player.
And it's not always,
it's not always right away.
We kind of get lured into some of these.
Well, it's because he was the first overall pick.
But look at the guys up in Toronto, right?
Vladimir Guerrero, Bo Bichette. Yeah, I hear you.
And even Fernando Tatis Jr. out in San Diego. They have this flashy start,
a sudden impact, right?
And you kind of get lured into that, right?
Yep.
Well, not every great player starts that way.
Correct.
And not every player that starts that way is a great player.
Right. Ends that way.
Yeah. So
correct.
So I want a guy who's going to be steady improvement. And if Torkelson and Carpenter and Green could be steady improvement over years, I don't need to have that flash in the pan to start with.
Well, no, absolutely not. And speaking of Spencer Torkelson, we all have a very special guest.
Yeah, Rob
next segment.
Wait. What word did I say yesterday on the air you didn't like or you didn't know what it was? I said, what did I say? You were dogged? No, I said something else.
No, I've been called. Go back to the
compliment, though.
It was a compliment.
Oh, okay,
I took it as a compliment.
Oh, good. All right,
yeah. No,
all
go back to the Drive with Jack archives yesterday's show, and
I called you persistent. Was it? No, something.
No,
okay.
No, it was crazy word that you came up with.
Great job giving the interview. We're going to learn about Spencer early days.
Yeah, with his
Arizona State.
Yeah, with his former college baseball head coach Tracy Smith, who now is the head coach at the University of Michigan.
And does Jack Ebling, does his head flip around every time you mention that?
Well, speaking of Jack Ebling, his head flips around, quite a bit.
Yes.
But speaking real quick, you got to tell the story.
Well, I was down. I went to the ball game on Friday night.
Let's put this in context a little bit.
Jack was there because this was his 5,000th year he saw a game or whatever, and I wanted to say hi to him, right? So I said, "Where are you, Jack?" He texts me a section in a row. Okay?
Sure.
So I go look, and I write down, I had the section, I got the row, no Jack. Okay?
Oh,
so I start to walk away, and I said, Jack, where are you? He goes, I said I'm in, and he gives me the section, the row, and now the seat number. Right?
Okay.
So I turn around, I go back, and he's still not there. Right?
Is it somebody else, or is the seat empty?
The seat's full.
It's somebody else.
Yeah. So I said, "What the?" So some of the people sitting in the section looked at looked at my confused face,
right?
And said, "You're looking for somebody." I said, "Yeah, there's someone supposed to be sitting here. I'm looking for it." He goes,
"It's not Jack Ebling."
There was a guy that was there that moved over there and points across the aisle and down the row. I said, "Jack." So for whatever he moved, but here I said, Jack, why did you twice send me a text with the seat that you're not in? Why didn't you tell me where you were? I tell you right now, if those nice people had appointed me, I never would have found him.
You wouldn't have found him.
The strangers had to help me find Jack.
Hey,
Jack, and Jack was just Jack.
Friendly neighborhood. You know what I mean?
Goodness.
Friendly people at Comerica.
But
Love
again,
to hear about it.
Why did he send me the text twice?
Did you ask him?
And he said, well, I was trying to confuse you. I said, well, Jack.
Oh, you did it.
You did a good job.
Well done, Jack Ebling.
Let's take
Hall
a break.
of Famer.
We're going to come back with the interview. Rob did a great job getting that. Before we do, Rob, run down our social media contacts and give people a chance to how they can get involved with the baseball this week.
Yeah, absolutely. You can follow us on Twitter at Baseball This Week. That's Baseball This and then WK. You can follow us on Facebook as well. And you can watch us on YouTube, as hopefully some of you are doing right now, our YouTube page, Baseball This Week. And if you don't want to look at our ugly mugs, then you can follow us on all your podcast, easy for me to say, platforms, Spreaker, Spotify, iTunes, any and all podcasts, Baseball This Week. Just look us up. We're there for you.
All right, Rob, very good. And the Tigers are down 1-0, by the way. Oh, that was last night. Oh, yeah.
Again, remember, this is a replay.
I keep forgetting.
Tonight, I got to shut it off on you.
I knew that. Okay. We'll take
you
a break.
and Jack, 2 peas in a pod.
We'll come right back. And I would not send you to the wrong seat. I promise you that.
Okay, all right.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll come right back. We've got a full show here coming up for you. The baseball this week here from the Spotlight Media Studios.
To everyone who wants a meal made just for you, let our team member Arish share what makes Culver's special.
We know the best meals are the ones shared with the people you love, like our cook-to-order butter burgers and our real Wisconsin cheese curds. And there's no better way to treat yourself than our creamy, fresh, frozen custard. I put the same care into your meal that I would for my own family.
Come to Culver's for a meal made the Wisconsin way.
From Wisconsin with love.
Welcome to Delicious.
So, it's been a while since you've had your jewelry cleaned and inspected, right? Where will you go and who will you trust with your most valuable and treasured heirlooms? At Meadowar Jewelers' 4 locations in Lansing, Okemos, Jackson, and Portage, jewelry isn't just our job, it's our passion. Each and every piece entrusted in our care is thoroughly inspected by our trained staff against damage or normal wear. And we offer you, our customer, the highest level of quality on repairs and custom designs. Whether it's worn out prongs, channels, or shanks, it's all handled with incredible care. Meadowar Jewelers in Lansing, Okemos, Jackson, and Portage want to help you preserve your memories and offer you options on creating new ones. Come in today for the cleaning and inspection of your jewelry. We continue to work hard every day to earn your confidence and trust.
Time for a career change? Looking to make a difference? Dean Transportation is looking for compassionate people to join our dedicated team of school bus professionals. Dean Transportation has immediate openings and offers paid training to obtain a commercial driver's license. With increased starting pay, benefit packages, flexible scheduling with weekday hours, and more, Dean Transportation may be the career choice for you. No experience needed. Apply now and train all summer. Head to deanjobs.com.
To everyone who needs a little delight in their day, let our team member Paul tell you about one of our favorite sweet treats.
Making special moments at mealtime is a tradition in Wisconsin. And what better way to sweeten your day than a Culver's creamy fresh frozen custard and your favorite mix-ins. From the indulgence of Snickers to the richness of Dove chocolate, we handcraft every concrete mixer exactly the way you like.
Come to Culver's and let us make your day a little bit sweeter. From Wisconsin with love, welcome to Delicious.
Take me out to the ball game here on a Wednesday afternoon. I'm Jim Stark along with Boston Rob Bennett here with our this week of baseball this week on a Wednesday afternoon. We're watching the replay from last night as we wait for the Tigers to face off against the Yankees tonight down at Comerica Park and the vaunted, the legendary Yankees. But you had a chance though, Rob, with very persistent attitude to get an interview with someone you were trying to get for weeks. That's Tracy Smith, the current head coach of the University of Michigan Wolverines baseball program, formerly with Arizona State. You know, Michigan's had some pretty good coaches over the year, too. Bud Middaugh was the coach that won the World Series with them back, I think, in the 80s. And then Bill Freehand was the coach there for a number of years. So great tradition of coaches, just like we have here at Michigan State, here in East Lansing. But you had a chance to talk with Troy Smith and find out about his past. And Tracy Smith, and his work with Spencer Torkelson when he was a player at Arizona State. So, Rob, let's go right to your interview with Tracy Smith.
Appreciate it. And indeed, we are being joined right now by Michigan baseball head coach Tracy Smith. Coach, thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Well, appreciate you having me on. Anytime we talk baseball, it's a good day.
We'll get to your team here in just a minute, but want to go back in time with you if we could to start off this interview. Formerly the head coach at Arizona State and formerly the coach of Detroit Tigers first baseman Spencer Torkelson. Do you remember your first interaction with Spencer when you first started recruiting him?
It was actually he and his mother came on a visit. I can't remember. Gosh, it was probably the summer of 2014 maybe or 15. Mm-hmm. But came, and he was pretty focused on what he wanted to do. And I tell people, ironically, it was a very easy recruiting process because he just kind of said, I've always wanted to go to Arizona State. So, but I'll sit here and tell you, we didn't know exactly what we had at that time. And, I think history has kind of proven that it sure was a good get for us. But, yeah, that young man sitting in my office that day, I didn't quite anticipate that he would be where he is at this point, but we were sure glad to have him.
What were some of the things that popped out to you that perhaps maybe with the potential that he could have?
Well, I mean, his first fall, it was honestly kind of an average fall, and I laughed because here's a guy that became the eventual 1-1. He'll probably kill me for saying this, but we always do like a little mini World Series in the fall. So we would have a draft. So my assistants would actually have a draft on our staff. I think he was literally a 7th-round draft pick on our own team that fall because it was pretty uneventful. And when I really remember it being different was when he came out the second semester his freshman year, and it just clicked for him offensively. Like he was doing things and hitting balls that, quite frankly, I've never seen probably since Schwarber, who had the opportunity to coach him. Mm-hmm. But it was just his power and how he was able to go all fields. But beyond, and I always want to say this when I talk about Spencer, is beyond the baseball stuff. And I think the city of Detroit's probably getting a feel of this as well. Is I don't care if it's a child, a mom, a coach. If they talk to him for 5 minutes, they'll come over to you and say, that's the nicest person I've ever met. And so, when you take that special blend of talent and what he does on the field with the humility and who he is as a person, it's a pretty lethal combination of winning, just in the locker room and certainly what he's been able to do on the field and start settling into Detroit this year. But realistically, it didn't happen, honestly, until that probably second semester freshman year is when we said, oh, this might be different.
I was going to say, was there a moment for the both of you as his coach and him as a player where, man, he really has a shot to be the number 1 overall pick in the draft?
Well, after his freshman year, and it was kind of publicized at the time, like he broke Barry Bonds' freshman home run record, and we were certainly playing at a bigger park at that time, but he would just have the knack, for the big hit, and not just the power, but he could hit. And I remember even coming off of the tremendous freshman year he had, where he really opened the eyes of people across the country. He had, I don't even want to say it was a slow start, but like everybody's like, hey, what's wrong with Torkelson? He's struggling. And I remember looking at it like, well, he's hitting 385 and, umpteen RBI. So if that's a struggle, then we probably got a pretty special player here.
What is hitting with power but not home run power? What's the difference there, if there is one?
I would assume that people are referring to the exit velocity. And if I recall early in the season, I remember him having some of the highest exit velocity. In other words, the ball off the bat of a lot of guys in the major leagues. It just wasn't getting the loft with that, which when you have good exit velocity and you have the proper loft or angle, then that creates the home run. But any baseball guy will tell you if you hit enough balls hard, you're going to have success. And hitters will say, I don't necessarily go to the plate trying to hit a home run. I try to hit the baseball hard. And, and the beauty and people and kind of tracking him, people would say, what's wrong with Torkelson? Why is that? I said, just people forget how young he is. Like, he's going to be fine. And I think what we're seeing now is a version of him just really getting comfortable and settling in. And, his second big league season. So he's going to have a long and special career, no doubt.
One of the things that I've seen watching him play here in Detroit is, and maybe not talked enough about, is his defense. Is that part of the game that should be talked about more?
Absolutely, because you can win on both sides, both sides of it. And I know even when he had the slow start with the bat, he was still winning baseball games. I remember the management saying, the coaches that I know on the staff, saying that he's still winning with his, helping us win with his glove. But I go back to his time at ASU. One of his teammates was Alika Williams, who was a first-rounder, and actually they just played against each other. Alika made his major league debut. We had another shortstop, Gage Workman, in the Tigers organization, and then Drew Swift, who ultimately became a top 10-round guy, and Torkelson were all high school shortstops. So wow. You take that, and Tork, you could put him at short. Like, if he was on a different team, he could have played shortstop at the Power 5 level. So that gives you a little bit of indication of his certainly skill set and mobility. And I apologize for the sirens in the background here, standing outside. But again, he always took pride in his defense and working extremely hard on that.
What's the key for a big man? I mean, he's a big guy, right? I mean, what's the key for him at first base and that defensive success?
The mobility and just his movement. Like, his body moves really, really well. It's funny, you'll talk to people sometimes who've never stood next to him in person. They kind of see him, and they're like, when they stand next to him in person, like, gosh, he's bigger than I thought he was, just thicker. But he was always a really good athlete. Like, he could move. And I think that's the key to being good defensively, is just how the body moves.
All right, give us a little tidbit. Give us something that maybe the fans that are listening might not know about Spencer Torkelson with the time that you've had with him.
Well, they probably know, because I've seen it. He's an unbelievable dog lover. Like, he's a big-time dog lover. But one of my favorite things with him was we were standing around. This isn't kind of it's kind of in the baseball theme, but we're standing around the batting cage one day, and we're at the stadium there at Phoenix Municipal, and they had the batter's eye, and up across the top of the batter's eye in dead center, which was probably 410, 415, 420, whatever it was, the top, it had Sun Devils. And we literally were standing there, we're like, you know what? Since we've been here, nobody's ever hit one at the top of the batter's eye to hit the letters. And he literally turned around and goes, oh, they haven't? He goes, well, watch, I'll do it right now. And sure enough, within like 2 or 3 swings, he hit one off like either the U and Sun Devils or something like that. So kind of that question you asked me earlier, back to like when you realize you got something special. I mean, that was kind of impressive right there.
Well, let's talk about you coming back to the Midwest and into the Big Ten. First year with Michigan baseball. Have you had a chance to kind of sit back and look back at your first year and just overall grade it?
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting transition because the timing of the hire.
Yeah.
In college athletics now, I mean, and I don't say this with any begrudging feelings or anything, but it's kind of a ruthless thing on a coaching change, because I say the poaching that can go on, or let's put it this way, the transfers of rosters. That's a better way to rephrase that. So there was a lot of that went on. And it significantly had an impact on what our roster looked like. But what I loved is how this group of guys that still remained at Michigan, how they embraced not only me, but our entire staff, some new philosophies, because Coach Backich and his staff had a lot of success and recent success. So I loved coaching this team, like the last year's team. I mean, it was, I had a year off, and sometimes when you take a year off, it really lets you kind of inventory your life and things that are important. And so I had kind of made a commitment that, hey, I'm going to really enjoy this and not take this for granted. And so when I evaluated, we finished 500, and in a lot of ways I thought we overachieved on the diamond, and that's tough to say when you're 500. But my inventory is more of, how the guys, how I felt and how the team felt, and did we do our best, and did we get the most out of what we put on the field? And I think we were pretty darn close to that. And and certainly something to build on as we move forward and transition now to a full recruiting class. So I'll give it an okay grade. I'm not going to ever say we're satisfied with 500, but it was a good year of just the experience of the guys in the baseball field at Michigan.
Coming back to the Big Ten Conference, what's changed the most since you've been here, since you've been back?
Yeah, I mean, I love it's like the investment in the schools, by the schools into the baseball programs in terms of facilities and just general support of the program. And, I'm kind of a dinosaur a little bit now, but, I've seen the evolution of the Big Ten and part of it, and certainly watched it from afar in the time at the Pac-12. And there was a time I remember we were sitting around the table in a Pac-12 meeting when the Big Ten got more teams in the NCAA tournament than we did. And I just remember making the comment. I said, because the schools and institutions are investing in their programs. So I just love, I love that Big Ten has embraced baseball. And I think it's showing in terms of fan support and the size of stadiums and TV and all of that. So really proud of what this league has done, and I'm glad to be back at it.
Well, you mentioned the Pac-12, so this brings me to my next question. Your thoughts on what has transpired over here over the last couple of months with the additions of Oregon and Washington and all this realignment that has been going on throughout all the conferences. Just get your overall thoughts adding these teams to the Big Ten, but just your overall thoughts on all this movement.
Well, I like it. I mean, people ask me, is it a good thing or a bad thing? I think it's a great thing for a league when you add the quality of institutions in UCLA, USC, Washington, and certainly Oregon now of the most recent. I think it's allowed. We already, from a Michigan standpoint, had a national footprint in recruiting, but I think it makes even more sense now. The state of college athletics, and conference realignment, I think this has been kicked around and talked about for years, that you're probably going to see 2 or 3 super conferences, if you will. So my gut's telling me this is probably the beginning of that. I don't know. I think all the time the NCAA spent with rules to create parity in college baseball, I think that's probably going to go right by the wayside now with the transfer portal and NIL money that's flowing around. So it's almost like free agency now. And I'm not sitting complaining about it. I'm just making an observation that it's just a way different game. And, if you try to dig your heels in, this is what I learned, you try to dig your heels on it and say, well, we don't need to do that. This is how we've done it in the past. Then I feel, those institutions or that mindset's going to be left behind. We always have to evolve. So, you know what? We've got some great schools coming from the West Coast, and we're already recruiting the West Coast, but let's embrace the heck out of this and get more West Coast guys, because now they can play in their backyard. So overall, I absolutely love it. I love it.
All right, before we let you go, your excitement level, you talked about a little bit about this Michigan team for next year.
Well, it's going to be, this is the year that we're kind of looking at, a little bit of transition, because we had 15 seniors last year. So they've expanded the roster to 40 for next year across college baseball. We're probably going to be bringing in almost 25, 30 new guys. So I like the talent. We're going to be young. The portal, I thought we did a good job in the portal on the position player side. So I'm optimistic. I'm looking forward to going back to what I said earlier. We really wanted to show respect to what the players, the majority of our roster was older and with the former, that, we didn't come in and just try to change everything. So it'll be a little bit different for the guys this year, because it's a darn near new roster. So I'm just excited to put our piece in and keep building on what, Michigan certainly has done well before we got here and, well before last year. And we just want to build on that and continue to move the needle in the right direction and get back to that College World Series and ultimate national championship.
Coach Tracy Smith, great to have you back here in the Big Ten Conference. Thank you so much for taking some time to join us here on Baseball This Week. We really appreciate it, and we hopefully will be in touch soon.
Well, really appreciate you having me on, and again, thank you. Thank you so much for being able to talk about baseball today. Love it. And Michigan baseball. Love it.
Well, that was a good job, Rob. The only question I would have asked, but you didn't, is maybe on the Michigan State rivalry. What something about that?
Yeah, well, with it being his first year at Michigan. You know what I mean?
Well, that's true, too.
But he
yes,
was
yeah.
with Indiana back, so I think he's still getting – he obviously knows about it, right? But now that he's, like, in it, maybe it will take him a year or two, you know what I mean? To
maybe a better
fully
question
get in
next
depth.
year.
Yeah, so
well, obviously,
great to have Coach
He
Smith
loves
on.
baseball. And what an interesting discussion about Spencer Torkelson. The nicest person thing, I've heard that about him.
Yeah.
He's a really good guy. And that's one
very
thing,
humble guy.
One thing about the Tigers as they're building this new program, they're building it the right way. Guys like Torkelson and Riley Green and Kerry Carpenter.
Well, it's a culture
and
thing.
Parker Meadows, all the same kind of makeup of personality.
Yeah, it's a culture
Yeah.
thing. We hear that in sports all the
Yep.
time, especially when a new regime comes in. We're hearing it with the Lions, right?
Oh,
How Dan Campbell has changed the culture, how management has changed the culture.
And they want a quality a personality too, not just on the field but off the field.
Sure,
and
that's the ultimate dream for everyone.
And
right?
that was clear from what Coach Smith said, that Torkelson was early on. He saw that. How about the fact that he was the 7th round pick in
his own draft?
In their own draft.
Yeah, that tells you how good of a team he had back then.
Well,
right?
and the fact that he had not moved yet. He still was still growing.
Right.
But he mentioned Gage Workman, who was also drafted by the Tigers in the same draft as Spencer Torkelson. Now we'll talk more about the minors when we have our down in the farm report later on. But Gage Workman, who is playing right now for the Erie Seawolves, is not really lighting things up. Hitting 198. 7 home runs and 19 RBIs, but in 167 at bats, 198. That's not going to get too much attention.
That would have been the Tigers from beginning of the season, right? He would have fit right in. But, we'll see. Again, we talked about it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Not everybody can just burst onto the scene.
Well,
it takes a little bit. And
remember,
this guy's still young, too,
but
right?
Workman and Torkelson came in the same year.
Yep.
Torkelson struggled a little bit early on.
Right.
But there are definitely a different path. How's that?
Yeah, for sure.
But one more thing I wanted to mention about what we heard from Coach Smith about a couple things, I guess, about Torkelson. He was a shortstop in high school.
Yeah, that kind of – I did not know that,
well,
to be honest.
I knew the Tigers drafted him. Even though he played first base at Arizona State, they drafted him as a quote-unquote third baseman. I think that was not a very sound idea to try to move him to first base or third base right away because he wasn't ready. But the fact he was a shortstop means he's got good feet, he's got a good arm.
Yep.
And you mentioned in your question, he's a good defensive first baseman.
Yeah, and that's really what I don't want to say kept him on the field. A lot of people might have said that because of his offensive struggles, right? But defensively, he saved a couple of games for the Tigers early on, or made a couple of huge defensive plays out in the field. And really, when people, quote unquote, were thinking, offensively, maybe we send him down. Well, the defensive side of his game, which he's worked very hard on, as Coach mentioned in that interview, really sustained him, I think, early on in the season.
And the good thing about a defensive first baseman, unlike other infielders, they can make good plays on their own at their spot. They can make good plays when the throws come and they make a good stab.
Sure.
They make everybody better.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
so 2 other things I noted. He broke. Who was that guy's name again? He said he broke the rookie home run. Well, I didn't hear his name.
Some guy named Bonds.
Barry Bonds. Whatever happened to him?
Well, he got into a little bit of a controversy.
However,
he
was a great hitter. I don't care if he was on what drug.
I mean, he was a great hitter when he got to San Francisco.
Phenomenal
I don't know
hitter.
if he was such a great hitter when he was with the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Oh yeah, he was. Oh no, Rob.
I mean, not to the point where he was in San Francisco.
If you back out the steroid era, he was still a very dominant hitter. So breaking his record ain't bad. And then finally, what I like to hear what he said about him is he has a knack for the big hit, the big clutch hit. That's not just a home run when you're down by 4 or 5, but the big hit when you need it.
Well, and it's quality over quantity sometimes, right?
That's right.
And so take advantage when those opportunities come, and there's not many, right? You're under a microscope being 1-1, right?
Yep.
And we've seen him come through in the clutch here during the season, especially during the latter half here.
More and more lately, yes.
And he has a better lineup around him.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that helps. I mean, let's talk about we can talk about that in another show. I know we got to go to break.
Well, when you have a healthy, hot Riley Green in front of you and an emerging hot hitter in Kerry Carpenter, that's a great. He's going to see more pitches.
That's exactly correct.
Absolutely.
You build the lineup to where it's not, if you can, it's not one or two guys, because and when you're scouting the Tigers, okay, this is the only guy we got to worry about. Well, now, right? So now they have 3 or 4 potentially young studs in that lineup offensively, to where are you going to pitch? Who are you not going to pitch to, right?
Yep.
Who can you not pitch to? You're going to have to pitch to everyone.
I agree. And
if you can get 4 or 5 of those guys, you're not going to get 1 to 9.
Right.
You know what I mean? But if you can get 4 or 5 of those guys throughout the lineup, right? That's championship. That's playoff. That's a playoff team. Offensively.
Great interview, Rob. Really good. Okay.
Had a great time.
Let's take a break. We'll come back. We've got our features. We've got our Down in the Farm report. We've got our 3 Up, 3 Down. Plus, we're going to look at the week ahead. But before we do, though, Rob, please run down again once for our listeners / viewers a little more about the social media, how they can get involved with us here at the Baseball This Week.
Yeah, you can follow us on Twitter, Baseball This WK, Baseball This Week. Leave a comment if you would like. Any derogatory comments, go right to Jim Stark. Right? And, of course, Facebook, our Facebook page, Baseball This Week. And, of course, you can follow us on YouTube, our YouTube channel as well. And we are live right now on that as we speak. And, of course, podcasts, right? Everything's a podcast now. Well, you can follow Baseball This Week on all your whatever your podcast platform preference is, we are there. For you, Baseball This Week.
Talking baseball each and every week here from the Spotlight Media Studios. We'll be right back with more of this week's Baseball This Week.
To everyone who wants a meal made just for you, let our team member Arish share what makes Culver's special.
We know the best meals are the ones shared with the people you love, like our cooked-to-order butter burgers and our real Wisconsin cheese curds. And there's no better way to treat yourself than our creamy, fresh, frozen custard. I put the same care into your meal that I would for my own family.
Come to Culver's for a meal made the Wisconsin way. From Wisconsin with love, welcome to Delicious.
So, it's been a while since you've had your jewelry cleaned and inspected, right? Where will you go and who will you trust with your most valuable and treasured heirlooms? At Meadowar Jewelers' 4 locations in Lansing, Okemos, Jackson, and Portage, jewelry isn't just our job, it's our passion. Each and every piece entrusted in our care is thoroughly inspected by our trained staff against damage or normal wear. And we offer you, our customer, the highest level of quality on repairs and custom designs. Whether it's worn out prongs, channels, or shanks, it's all handled with incredible care. Meadowar Jewelers in Lansing, Okemos, Jackson, and Portage want to help you preserve your memories and offer you options on creating new ones. Come in today for the cleaning and inspection of your jewelry. We continue to work hard every day to earn your confidence and trust.
Time for a career change? Looking to make a difference? Dean Transportation is looking for compassionate people to join our dedicated team of school bus professionals. Dean Transportation has immediate openings and offers paid training to obtain a commercial driver's license. With increased starting pay, benefit packages, flexible scheduling with weekday hours, and more, Dean Transportation may be the career choice for you. No experience needed. Apply now and train all summer. Head to deanjobs.com.
Go get 'em, Tiger. Row.
Well, there's that theme song that I remember so fondly from 1968, Rob, and I hear that song and I can just picture where I was that summer, and the Tigers of my youth, the first team I really remember ever winning.
Where were you?
Well, I was listening
You
to
were
the
at
radio.
the bubble.
I was listening to the
Oh,
radio.
the great Ernie Harwell. Absolutely.
I didn't go to my first baseball game until '69. I hadn't been to a baseball game in '68 because I hadn't gone yet. So everything went, and you didn't see many games on TV.
No,
it was all in your head.
Right.
All in your head.
Radio, baby.
Yep. And Ernie Harwell, absolutely. Ernie Harwell. And back then it was Ray Lane. Ray Lane and Ernie Harwell were with a team back in '68. So. All right.
No, the winter's past.
Oh,
Gotta do it.
You give that to me, Rob, and I'll listen to that every time.
The time of the singing of birds is come, and the voice of the turtle is heard in our land.
You know, if there's a voice that makes me think of summer and relaxing, and that's Ernie's. Ernie's had
soothing voice,
a very
perfect,
that he had that, from Georgia. He had a slow pace to his voice. Never hurried. He was never one of those guys that felt like he had to force in words.
No,
right?
Perfect baseball play-by-play voice. Him and Vince Scully.
One of the most famous baseball calls of all time, and the Dodgers win the pennant. Russ Hodges.
Sure.
Ernie was on the radio.
Yeah,
and
he
switched to TV for that inning.
So he could have.
That would have been him. Now, he would not have been screaming, "The Dodgers win the pennant."
Right.
He would have been something totally different.
It would have been something totally. But that's one of those great what ifs, right?
Right. That's right. Before we go to our 1-up, our 3-up, 3-down, Rob, I want to talk about the bullpen. Okay. The bullpen. We talked all season long about being the strength of the Tigers. Well, guess what? Since the middle of the season, it has really not been the strength that it was early. And I guess I didn't notice it. I didn't really notice it as much until I did some research on the stats. Okay, up until the 7th of June, so roughly 2.5 months of the season.
Yeah,
they had a 2.74 ERA through 148 innings. Okay, since then, in 158 innings, which is pretty close, pretty balanced.
Sure.
ERA is 4.34, almost a run and a half more per game since that time, and it's gone from strength to weakness.
It's a capsule of this entire season.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
The roller coaster ride that this team continues to go on, and this is what happens when you have young and, again, you got some experience in that bullpen, but overall, young, talented. I think there's no question that there's talent there, arms. It's all about, again, and we've said this word we're on episode 14 now, Jim, of this baseball this week. Yeah. And and I've said this word, and I'm sure you've said this word almost every show, consistency, right?
Yes.
And this is what it comes down to.
And you can't achieve consistency without time. There's no way
and
shortcut that.
And you can't have success without failure.
That's true too.
Without failure, you can't have success. Now, they got success early on, and they kept the Tigers winning a lot of games, that bullpen.
Right.
So the fact that they've stumbled, whatever you want to say,
well,
I'm okay with it because it's a capsule of what this team has gone through all year.
Well, and here's a good example. Alex Lang, who early on was just unhittable, since the 18th of June, and here's why.
Again,
here's why he's not as effective. 27 walks in 23 innings.
Well, he's not owning the strike zone.
He's not following the Scott Harris mantra of own the strike zone. That's it, exactly. Yeah, and another.
But again, I'm not overly concerned about it. I think he's got a bright future in Detroit's bullpen. Whether he ends up being the closer full time but you got to have him in that line. You got to have him in that bullpen.
You got.
He's one of the. He's not on my SOS radar. You know what I mean?
No.
I'm not stressing over Lang and what his abilities could be. Will or could be.
What you have to do with a young team is you don't want them to get discouraged. Okay.
Yeah.
But you can't pull them out and start. You got to get them out there and work through the rough areas without a doubt. So,
correct. And they're and I will agree, they're in a little bit of a rough patch
the bullpen, as you said, they carried the team early on. They haven't been carrying the team, and really the hitting is rebounded. Because remember,
well, that's right. It's like the opposite now.
You used
right?
to have 3 guys in the lineup hitting under 200. We don't have that anymore.
Yeah, The pitching struggled early on, or the pitching kept the Tigers in games early in the season. Right?
Here's what I want, though, Rob. Here's what I want.
I know you want a full game of pitching and hitting.
Balance.
Well,
Exactly.
Will you?
Yep.
I don't know if you'll ever get that perfect game.
No, it's not perfect, but I want balance because you win with balance.
Yes.
All right.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's go.
A lot of teams are looking for that.
Everybody does.
Real quick, I got a couple of afternoon baseball scores if you want them. How about that?
Live games?
Live games going on right now. Angels at the Phillies. Bottom of the third, 2-2. But these other games, this is Central Division games in the afternoon. The White Sox, who I'll talk about a little later as coming up opponents for the Tigers in the near future. White Sox-Orioles, 4-4, bottom of the second. And then the Guardians and the Twins, no score, end of the third.
Okay.
So there's your afternoon matinee
what
Major League Baseball score update.
What does Jack call it? The cesspool division?
Cesspool division, yeah.
The cesspool division matchup between the Guardians and the Twins.
Someone's got to win it.
All right. Real quick, let's go down our 3-up, 3-down. I had a hard time finding my 3-up this week.
Really?
Yeah, I did. You can imagine why.
Sure.
All right. So, but first, the 3-down, Jose Cisneros. I think you talked about putting someone on the list to say, you know what, thanks, it's been a good run, but I think he goes in that list. He's 33, but since July 1st, in 17 innings, he's had 23 runs scored on 29 hits. That's not getting guys out. That's putting fuel on the fire.
Yeah.
So Cisneros, definitely, I think he's had his time here. Andrew Vasquez, who they got 2 weeks ago to be a lefty out of the bullpen, has not been talk about more gas in the fire. In 10 appearances, he's got up 9 runs on 10 hits and 8 bases on balls. So
wow.
Andy
just got him 2 weeks ago.
And now he's on the disabled list.
Yeah.
But he was one of those guys, it was a cut,
he's not in the long-term.
No, but he's not helping him right now. And third, Alex Faedo, who is, and I'm not writing him off. He's still young, but right now he needs to recover from this down. He's down to 2-5 on his record. ERA just over 5. And needs to be more. He is the poster child for more consistency.
Yes, I would agree.
Okay, so now we'll go on to the 3-up. I got to go with Parker Meadows. So far, 333 average, home run, 6 RBIs. 3 runs scored, 5 bases on balls, a stolen base, and an OPS of just under 1,000. Now I know it's early, but you know what? I'm gonna revel in those numbers. Is that okay?
You can take, yeah.
Okay.
I'll allow you for a week to do that.
All right. It gets harder after that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. They face the Astros.
Well,
I'm
gonna go with Andy Ibanez, who I think has stabilized to some extent second base. He plays a good defense. He's got 9 home runs, 26 RBIs, 245 average. Maybe he's not a starter, but he could be a part of a winning team as a backup.
Yep, you need that. You need that quality depth.
Exactly. And finally, my other nominee for the 3-up this week, Akil Baddoo. I will say the same exact thing about Baddoo as I did about Ibanez. He's not a starter, but he can be part of a winning team. He's got great speed. But when you start him, you expose his weaknesses, right? If he can be placed more strategically, I think he'd be a productive player. So I'm going to put Baddoo and Ibanez both in that same category as 3-up, but only as role players on a winning team.
Okay, well, I can't believe we're witnessing history again.
What's that?
And you did not mention, at least you didn't mention not even mentioning putting him up in your 3-up, and I've been a defender of him all year on this show, Miguel Cabrera.
Well, I think
hits his 510th home run, 3 on the year now against the Astros.
He's
moving
right now,
up the list.
He's being Miguel Cabrera. He had a big hit to keep the game going. I get it, but
hey, when there's and this is history, home run number 510.
Yep,
against the Astros, game 1, I believe.
And he passed somebody again, didn't he?
I believe it's Sheffield.
Yeah,
Gary Sheffield.
Yep. So yeah, his
history making continuation.
Every
you're not putting it up there. Okay.
Well, I mean, I'll do it. He will get it at the end of the year. I promise you that. All right. Okay. real quick, down to the farm report, Rob. Not much to report. Certainly down at the Erie level. And this is a little bit disappointing. There's nobody now that Colt Keith has been elevated to Toledo. Justice Bigby, who's an outfielder, is the only guy really hitting 350, but you don't hear much about him. So I mentioned Gage Workman, who's not doing much at 198. So nobody really. Jace Young, who we're looking for good things. He was a top draft pick. He's hitting 274.
Okay.
Maybe he's on the radar, but nobody right now down in Toledo is really lighting up.
I'm sure you heard what the Detroit Tigers said. They're not really bringing anybody up. They're not bringing anybody, and you know what I mean.
They aren't. I agree.
For the rest of the season.
Well, they brought a lot of guys up.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So I applaud them for not just throwing up their people because what the outside might want, or I'm sure everybody wants to see. But what's your guy there? Who's now in Toledo, right?
Colt Keith.
Colt Keith. Everybody would like to see him in a Detroit Tiger uniform. But I applaud management for not just bringing everybody up there just for the sake of bringing everybody up.
They brought so many guys up. Yeah. The whole lineup, middle part of the line is all recent call-ups. So they got to find some stability. And I think you'll see Colt Keith come up maybe for a cup of coffee. I haven't given up that yet, but I don't think he'll come up to play.
Yeah, you'll see him in spring training next year.
Well, no, you might see him after the Toledo season's done. That last 2 weeks, you might see just to get him a little bit of exposure at the major league level, but you won't see him play. Hardly at all. So,
that's a great point, Jim.
Nice job. Yep. All right. Also down in Toledo, we see Wenzel Perez, who's been a perennial infield prospect. He's at 275. Keith is hitting.
What do you want? Right?
You sound
so disappointed.
If a guy can't hit 300 in the minor leagues, he ain't going to hit 300 in the major leagues. Okay, it's as simple as that. All right. So if you're in 275,
how much time are you going to give him?
Well, he's
couple years.
He's had 5 years.
Okay. All right.
Now Colt Keith averages up to 299, 9 home runs, 36 RBIs, having a decent year. But to your point, why rush it?
Right.
Why rush it?
So
and the pitching,
I'm just curious of your cutoff. When someone's hitting 275, which isn't bad,
at the minor league level, though, I'm not so sure. If you want a starter in the major league level, I'm not so sure 275 at the minor league is really a good benchmark for that.
Okay. All right.
No pitching. Neither the Toledo nor Erie has anything right now on the pitching side. Everyone that can be called has been called. How's that?
Fair enough.
Okay. Real quick before we go to your look ahead, Rob, I want to go look at the standings real quick as we look down to see if anything's really changed in terms of the pennant races. In the American League, the wild card, you got the division leaders, Orioles, Rangers, and Twins, which has not changed. You've got the Rays, Mariners, and Astros all solidly in the wild card. And then you got a bit of a space. The Blue Jays now are the only other team within shouting at 3.5 games. Your Red Sox are 6.5 back. That's kind of far for
they've struggled towards the end here.
But I would not. So I think the wild card really is almost set in the American League, with the exception of maybe the Blue Jays. But they got to make a run. They're 3.5 games out.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's I would venture to say the Blue Jays are the most threat right now.
Only close, really.
Yeah.
Now, nationally, different story.
Oh, yeah.
You got the Phillies, Cubs, and Giants still leading their divisions. You got the Diamondbacks, Reds, the Braves, Dodgers, and Brewers leading the divisions. You get the Phillies, Cubs, and Giants firmly ensconced in their wild card. But hot on their heels are the Diamondbacks, half a game behind. The Reds, 2 games behind. The Marlins, 3 games. So you got 3 teams within 3 games.
3 small market, young, with some great young players.
Yes, good talent.
It.
Yes, all 3 of those teams.
Yeah.
So they could make a run for it. So I like the race in the National League much more, obviously, than the American League, because as you said, any one of those 3 teams, the Diamondbacks, Reds, or Marlins, if they get in the playoffs,
they're playing with house money.
You'll see those young players.
Yeah,
you love to see the Reds.
I'd love to see all 3 of them.
I'd like to see De La Cruz on that big platform.
Sure.
Yeah.
Any of those teams, I would love to see.
All right. Okay, Rob. Before we get out of here for today, why don't we take a look at the week ahead?
Yeah. So as we mentioned tonight, It's game 3 of a 4-game set against the Yankees, 6:40 first pitch. And then as we begin September, Jim, football season, football weather, right?
Yep.
It is football weather.
It's football weather,
But
yep.
nothing like fall baseball, right? I mean, nothing like it. Okay.
Yep. No,
you're speechless.
No,
All right.
I agree. I think it'd be more fun if they were playing for something. Right now, they're really not even a spoiler if you think about it.
No, but you want to look it. You want them to end on a high note, right? You want to get some positive.
Well,
for sure.
The only team they can be a spoiler with is this, they are playing the Reds.
Well, right.
They could, but everyone else they're playing in September is pretty much out of it, except for the Dodgers, and they ain't spoiling that.
Well, that's a while ago. Well, more recently now, we'll finish up the 4-game series with the Yankees, right? And then the White Sox. Then they head to Chicago to face the White Sox,
and then back to New York,
and then for 3 games, and then back, and then going to New York.
Yep.
For another, I believe, 4-game set. Yeah, 4-game set, and then the White Sox come to Detroit. So you're going to see a lot of White Sox and a lot of Yankees in the next 2 weeks.
One good thing, Rob, in the next before the end of the season, they play 15 games against teams that they can beat.
Oh, their schedule.
That is the good
and
news.
And a lot of those teams within their division.
White Sox,
Guardians, and Kansas City.
Yeah,
and they get a little West Coast trip with the struggling Angels.
Yep.
And then the A's
in Oakland.
So
they could fatten up against those guys.
Absolutely. You want to end it. I mean, again, we all know where they're at, but you want to end, on a strong point for sure.
And get up over that 70-win mark. Absolutely. Show progress. So,
Indeed.
Tigers are down 3-0, Rob.
From last night?
Yeah, I'm not going to make my bet now.
I'm sure you lost enough money already, haven't you?
For Boston, Rob Bennett, I'm Jim Stark. Thanks for joining us today for this week's Baseball Week. We'll be back next week. Much more. Talk about baseball, the game we love, right here live from the Spotlight Media Studios.
Have a good night, everyone.